I'm gonna hate myself for doing this. God is a Negro. I am in big trouble.
So what are they trying to convey to the audience, to the masses of people? When we read the scriptures, we're reading it from a global or a oppressor's point of view, because the so-called Caucasians are in rulership and they have control of our records and the scriptures. But this book, in a nutshell, is just talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. Nothing more, nothing less. It is about the diary, the transcript, the chronicles of the Most High's chosen and his people. That is what the scriptures is mainly about. Okay? And the bloodline, which is still here on this earth, spread throughout the four corners of the earth. Now we have to get this in order to understand that when we read the scriptures, we have to look at the context of what's being said, not from a modern point of view, but from that time period. Best believe if the masses of Caucasians knew the real historical context and the real history of the book, then they would destroy the records like they've done with a lot of other civilizations and cultures. So it was in their best interest through the Babylonian Kemetic mystery systems to set up a false left-handed version of the Hamashiach, which is Horus or Haru, or the Black Madonna and the Divine Child, right? Because we see this in our current society, where the so-called black male is not inundated into the family structure no more. He is no longer needed. So you have black girl magic, and along with other bevy of issues in the so-called black community. But the Bible is about the 12 tribes. Also to take in consideration, when the Caucasians, or so-called whites, took a hold of the scriptures and documents and records, they had to fabricate and craft their own alternate version of history. Most people, I'm not going to say all, don't realize we've been in a new world order. You see, from their point of history and their point of view, there is a rapture and there is a antichrist. But it doesn't make sense. So we have to remember that the Bible is an exclusive book. The Hamashiach was only talking to his people, the lost house sheep of Yashar'EL or Israel. Okay, he wasn't talking about the world. He was not a globalist. He was a nationalist. Well, some might say, well, what are you talking about, a nationalist? When you read the scriptures from the beginning to the end, it's the relationship with the Most High and his chosen people, the God of Yashar'EL, the God of Israel, from beginning to end. Revelation 21:12, the 12 tribes of Israel and their gates. That is all it's about. Yes, there's esoteric information and knowledge in there as well, but it's for a specific people. It's like a Sam's membership or a Costco, right? It's not exclusive for everyone. Also to take in consideration with the imperialism and colonialism, the scriptures got into the hands of other nations of people. So therefore you see this globalist mentality, and everyone wants to put up a book or put up the book, because it inspires, it gives hope for many. But when you read certain scriptures like Ezra's, it says the Most High created the world for many, but in the world to come there will be few, right?
Absolute chaos. We've got blizzards in Africa, we've got tsunamis in Paris, and the whole thing's been
evidence, the proof in the pudding is there. I mean, what more do people need to see? But you understand the religious sectors and different denominations, all these mega churches, what are they actually teaching you? Prosperity, New Age. But when you look at ancient depictions of the Israelites, King David, Solomon, and so forth, they're all of Negro descent, so-called African American or black people. I mean, look at Daniel 7 and 9. Beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. Does that sound like a so-called Caucasian or Neanderthal wild man coming to save the world? No. Okay. So it's up to the individual. It's up to the Most High who he chooses to give this knowledge and information to. It's not my information. It's not the other person. It's not the next. It's for the Most High's people to understand that this book is talking about your lineage, your history, legacy, and future. Law, history, and prophecy. It is not talking about the other nations. As far as I'm concerned, they have their idols and so forth, right? The Most High put delusions, put different spirits on the other nations. We have to remember Psalms 147, 19 and 20. For the word was only shown unto Jacob. The other nations have not known the judgments. So right there, the Most High is saying that this is an exclusive book, record of his people. Why does the other nations have to decontextualize and counterfeit? We see that already in society with different quote unquote cultures or dance moves or so forth. We know who started rock and roll and rap, and now it's globalized, right? So same thing happened to this book. Upon closing, I like to say also that once we understand real history, that we ruled in Europe for 1,000 years, we can get rid of the victimization complex. There are a lot of black so-called Negroes with Welsh surnames. These people did not come over here and give you your last name and captured tens and millions of Negroes on a boat. It's made up. Yes, there were slave voyages as well. I'm not going to deny that. But from the millions, no, that's fabricated. It is a narrative. Welsh names equal black names, black European nobility, and so forth. The legacy of Israel and Edom, okay? Manasseh and Ephraim. Europe as the Celts, the Goths, the Saxons, the Irish, the Scots, the Danes, the 12 tribes. That's why you got those Welsh names. That's secular history, because we dominated over there too as well. So right here we have Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1. I've done a few videos on this book, but as we can see, the contributions of David McRitchie to black history is enormous and cannot be disputed. His work inspired such luminaries as Gerald Macy, John Henry Clark, and Godfrey Higgins, to name a few. In the quest to expose the long-age conspiracy to hide, in many cases to distort, the contributions of so-called blacks in science and inventions, African Tree Press published the 2 volumes of Ritchie's work as proof that blacks were adventurers and discoverers while others were still barbarians. Let that sink in. Okay. It is of paramount importance that such inequities and the betrayal of the lives and times of early blacks be removed, and the core of those works be brought to the general public for their scientific merits. Racism and the dedicates of Jim Crow laws as practiced in the past should not continue to dominate academic research and integrity. A race of men now rejected from society for their sable skin and frizzled hair, who founded on the study of law of nature, those civil and religious principles which still govern us today shall be honored and celebrated. But it must be remembered that the name originally meant nothing more than the black man. That is, only clung to one special tribe. By the same accidental process that has made such names as Black, Duff, Dow, Brown, Don, Dunn, and others become the distinguishing surname of other families. To attempt to trace the history of those various names with a view to cite them as a companion examples to that of Douglas would be exceedingly tedious and unnecessary, but it may be allowable to consider one or two others that naturally present themselves before us. In noticing those Douglas lords, masters, that were unmistakably styled black because of their complexion. Case closed.